walking into a happy hour and being able to notice those women who are going above and beyond the Call of Duty for happy hour and are being very proactive on their approach and grab some attention and some eyes in the room. I definitely no shame in their game. I applaud it. I congratulate any woman who feels very comfortable in her own body to allow herself to express her sexuality. By all means, go ahead, girl. You go, girl. But when it comes down to, you notice a few women and maybe she's enhanced certain parts of her body and are definitely, showcasing those assets. I'm definitely my eyes going to get there. I blame evolution on that, just because men are definitely going to be a little bit more physically inclined and keen into other mates before we start, getting into the down and dirty of what's kind of making that person tick and what's happening up here in a good old noggin. But I have nothing against it. In fact, I appreciate it. I wouldn't allow my daughter until she left the house maybe to do those type of things, but she wouldn't be drinking before she left my house. But that's besides the point. I personally, would definitely approach a woman and, because to me it's just a person who is almost like a peacock, guys, who do a little bit peacocking, wearing, certain things that kind of make them stand out. Women do exactly the same. And it's just grabbing attention and just hopefully grabbing the person's attention that you want. And me, I just personally figure, well, okay, you want to be socializing in that type of environment and that kind of outfit, and let me go ahead and say hi to you and see what's the deal. Are you truly single, as I am going to assume because you're dressed that way? Or are you just kind of, flaunting your assets just, to let everyone know what they're missing out on? But happy hour is great. And then having a few drinks with a couple of beautiful, seductive women is never a bad time. So to me, you go, girls. Keep it coming. Keep living strong. I'm have no complaints. A man's purpose versus the achievement that they do, they really should go hand in hand. But especially in America and the United States and the society we live in, there's a lot of emphasis on the amount of income level you should be having to determine how successful you are, type of car you're driving, the type of home that you own, and just where it places you in society. And to me, at the end of the day, if you're allowing to pin your self-worth, self-image, and esteem into the items you have, there's going to be almost no way that you're not going to run into any issues personally, unless you're the richest person on earth. Then you probably won't have a problem with that. But not everyone is that, because at the end of the day, there's only so many items that you could buy. How many watches can you buy? How many cars can you buy? You can only drive one. You can only, really wear one watch. I guess you could wear multiples on your arm if you're that person, but, there's only so many suits you can wear. There's only so many, home. You're going to live in one at home. You're going to be in one house at one time. So there comes a certain point where the amount of items that you're obtaining, you won't be getting any happier. And so if that's where you're attaching your self-worth and self-image and esteem, then of course you're going to find some problems, because those items are they're hollow. We people, we have a heart, we have a brain, we're full with things inside of us. Items are not. And that's where you're going to find some problems. When people talk about, going through finding themselves, it's, even though it's kind of a cliche, it's kind of like anything else in life where, going through your first breakup or going through your first, sexual, your first girlfriend, your first sexual experience. It's almost like a rite of passage through adulthood, because you realize whatever situation you're in, you're not happy, and where others' perceptions and maybe by society standards that you should be happy, why maybe there's something wrong with you. At the end of the day, you realize whatever you're doing at that situation, time in your life, whatever happiness you either were seeking or thought you would be attaining, it's just not happening. And so when you go through this finding yourself phase, you ultimately are just putting yourself through your own personal hell week or month or year, whatever the duration you're trying to, put yourself through. You're just trying to figure out what is it that's gonna help you find the happiness that you want. And we're all different, we all like to do the same things as humans, but we're all different. We all want to be happy, but what makes each other happy is gonna be different. So when you go on your finding yourself phase, what you're pretty much doing is just telling yourself, what is it that I thought made me happy that I now know is not making me happy, that's causing me to go into this whole little, session? And what is it that I need to discover more about me and focusing more about me and stop worrying about others and their thoughts, that's gonna ultimately help me in the long run. I always kind of like to reference, the image of, throwing coal into the fire and train. What is it that's gonna keep you putting those coals in that fire to keep that train running and staying on track and progressing forward? And that's what you're ultimately trying to find throughout this whole, finding myself moment. And ultimately, you should feel better once you come out of it. Of course, during that time, there's not going to be the best of moments. There's going to be times where you think to yourself, I'm worthless. What am I doing with my life? You sometimes might want to measure yourself with the other people. And that's the whole reason why you're in this place in the first place. But ultimately, you start figuring out what is it that you discover and that you can try to experience that's gonna help you realize, all right, what I put significance in before, I now know was a joke. I am mature now. I understand myself more. I'm more self-aware, and I now know what will ultimately make me happy. And at the end of the day, when it comes to achievement versus your purpose, I always like to say, an item can only give you happiness and it can only impress people for so long until there's the next model, or there's the next big thing, or there's someone who has a bigger one, or has a better one, or a newer one. And it's just putting your worth and your image into an item. It's only gonna last for so long. It has a certain, time where that's the cool thing until the next thing comes out. Compared to, doing something that's real and helping another human being or helping society in a certain way. I always say, you can buy that new watch and yeah, you can have that watch forever, but eventually that watch will get old to you. Eventually that watch is not going to impress you anymore. It's not going to impress your friends. It's not going to impress society anymore until the next one comes out. But I can promise you, if you were to help a young child learn how to read their first book, that takes time, that takes effort, that takes some dedication, and that takes, that's going to be something most worthy. That person's going to have forever. They're going to remember that moment, you helping them read their first book, and you're going to have a certain pride and happiness on being able to connect with another human being and helping them better themselves, that it will last you almost forever. It'd be 1,000 times better than whatever new thing you just bought this past, shopping spree. So that's how I personally feel. Money's just numbers on a piece of paper, but at the end of the day, we're all humans, and what we have in here And in our head, that's what matters most. You know, items are just hollow. We're full of stuff. Keep the good stuff coming.